back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Yo, full-time family. You know when you saw this headline, I gotta get my jokes off. Longtime color commentator Jimmy Smith no longer with Bellator. Who the fuck is Jimmy Smith, you might be asking, because not many people even watch Bellator as far as compared to the UFC. The casual fans or UFC maybe have seen a couple Bellator fights, so a lot of people don't know the Bellator commentating staff. Well, the inside joke is Jimmy Smith is like Bellator's Joe Rogan. I mean, he's got the bald head. They have him doing everything Joe Rogan does for the UFC, Jimmy Smith does for Bellator. I mean, from the fight breakdowns to the commentating to the pre-fight shows to the octagon interviews to the bald head. I mean, it's just like, you know what I'm saying, their version. Now, what I'm thinking is, it's crazy because nobody wants to see Joe Rogan leave the UFC. Absolutely nobody. So you've got to echo those sentiments to Bellator. It's like, why would they let Jimmy Smith go? Is this telling? Is the UFC about to, is Joe Rogan's contract about to expire? So like, fuck it, Joe's gone. We don't need him. No, maybe they're going to go for the real Joe. Maybe they're like, hey, we're about to make a huge play for Joe Rogan, and we can't make that play as long as we've got the roster and pasta. So for us to make a serious offer to Joe, we've got to let him know, look, we've already started the process. We want the real deal. We've got Goldie over here, because you do know Bellator does have Mike Goldberg, who used to be alongside Joe Rogan. So it was like Bellator had the real deal in Mike Goldberg right next to, Jimmy Smith, Joe Rogan, Jimmy Smith, right next to him. It was a dope combo. And so I just did not expect Jimmy Smith to be going anywhere for Bellator. This could have mean another thing. Actual, on a serious note, Bellator's leaving Spike TV, sort of. They're not really leaving Spike TV, but they're going to the Paramount Network. So I believe Spike TV is just being rebranded as the Paramount Network. So they're not really moving or leaving, but this channel's rebranding. The whole entire channel is changing and stuff. So maybe they're like, we don't want to be in the shadow of the UFC. We're coming to take over. We're not here to take part. We're not here to be the B League. We're coming to take over. We don't want Joe Rogan Jr. We don't want the roster imposter. We want to make a name for it. We want the real deal Holyfield, or we'll get our own motherfucking stuff. You know what I'm saying? We got Mike Goldberg. Now we want the real Joe Rogan, because we all know Joe Rogan's UFC workload has been lightening up. He went from doing like every show to just doing the pay-per-views, to now he just does the North American pay-per-views. So Joe Rogan, dope-ass commentator. He also has the podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast. That's another thing that could have played into Jimmy Smith. It was a mutual agreement. I'll read the statement real quick, but keep the podcast in mind. This is what the statement said. After a long and successful relationship, Jimmy Smith and Bellator have mutually agreed to part ways. Jimmy is one of the finest combat sports announcers of our time. He has played an integral role in the growth of Bellator as it evolved into a successful global franchise today. The Paramount Network sports production team and Bellator MMA would like to thank Jimmy and his great work behind the mic over the years and wish him all the best in the future. Details on Bellator's 2018 on-air team will be announced shortly. So, Jimmy Smith also released a quote, as you see. He said, I'm very grateful to the entire Bellator organization and fans for the amazing and unforgettable 9 years. As I move into the next phase of my career, I want to wish all the fighters, producers, and Bellator staff the absolute best. Now, this will be interesting if he actually moves on to another fighting league, maybe World Series rebranded, I think, to the PFL now. He could go to Invicta. Jimmy Smith if he wants to be a commentator, he's got options. I mean, who wouldn't want the next, the other Joe Rogan? There's two Joe Rogans on this planet, and he's one of, all right, he's not really a Joe Rogan, no disrespect intended, but it's just hilarious. Now, the podcast, that could be another thing that led into this. They're like, yo, you're killing it on the commentating, killing it on the octagon interviews, you're killing it everywhere, but you ain't killing it on the podcast, we really would. Have you thought about maybe a Jimmy Smith experience? The Jimmy Smith experience, we really believe at Paramount could be very successful. I mean, if you look at the success of the Joe Rogan experience, we really think you've got something here. And Jimmy Smith was like, I already shaved my fucking head. What more do you want from me? Like Tyrese. All right. Got my jokes off. Fuck it. I hope Jimmy Smith finds whether he's getting an advancement in his career. I mean, this dude's very talented. He's super dope. All Joe Rogan comparisons aside, he's got a job in any fucking organization not named the UFC or Bellator. I just thought about something, y'all. Joe Rogan's been flirting with leaving the UFC, right? He's been flirting with it, lowering his contracts. You think the UFC wants Joe Rogan to leave? Yeah, we understand you're a stand-up comedian and a dope-ass podcaster, and that those are probably a lot funner than this, but we need you, Joe. And if we can't get you, I guess we'll get Jimmy. No, I don't know if that's happening, but Joe Rogan, you better duck your motherfucking taco, bro, because they might be trying to make a play. This might... Okay, wait, no. I don't know what I'm saying. You get the point. I'm just saying, if Joe Rogan does leave the UFC... Don't be surprised to see motherfucking Jimmy Smith back up in there. You got Mike, the old switcheroo. Mike Goldberg to Bellator, Jimmy Smith to replace Joe Rogan. How crazy would that be if Jimmy Smith actually replaced Joe Rogan? All right, full-time family, it is what it is, man. Let the family know what you time at in the comments. This is, I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOWG.